Ready? Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting for Thursday, August 20th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. I'd like to open up public comment. Seeing HPS staff in the room. Is there anybody online who would like to do public comment? No? Okay, thank you.
All right. Raise your hand. I'm trying to raise my hand digitally.
Oh, sorry. We had somebody monitoring that, but we didn't see you. You may go ahead. We have 2 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
All right. Can you just give me 1 second to pull up my speech? Hello, my name is Andrew Kerr, and I choose not to waive my Fourth Amendment rights. Good evening, members of the school committee and residents of Hopkinton. I want to talk about consistency, fairness, and the consequences of the policy this district has adopted. Right now, Hopkinton allows initiated Sikh students to carry a kirpan, a blade, in school. The district's own agreement even creates a path for a sharpened blade if a family religiously objects to it being dulled. Based on the best available data, we are talking about roughly 50 to 100 school-age Sikh children in this town. This is a small number. The policy was written for that small number. But here is the problem the district has created. The First Amendment does not require a practice to be formal, written religious mandate. It protects sincerely held religious beliefs. Courts have said this repeatedly. If a Catholic student in their family sincerely believe that carrying a holy lance, a small symbolic blade connected to their faith, is an important expression of their religion, that belief is protected. The government does not get to decide which beliefs are real enough. Catholics make up roughly half of Hopkinton's population. That means we are looking at approximately 2,200 Catholic children of school age. If this district treats the Sikh kirpan as a protected religious expression, then it cannot turn around and deny a Catholic family the same consideration for a holy lance without engaging in religious discrimination. You cannot open up the door for one faith and slam it shut on another. That is textbook unequal treatment under the Constitution. By creating a carve-out that allows a blade and even a sharpened one upon religious objection, the district has opened Pandora's box. You've established the principle that a deeply held religious belief can justify bringing a knife into school. Once the principle is on the books, you cannot limit it to that group that asked first. If 50% of the students in this town are Catholic and even a fraction of those families decide the faith requires a similar religious blade, you could be looking at hundreds of students carrying knives under the same exact logic you have already accepted. That is not fear-mongering. This is the logical consequence of the policy as written. Equal protection means equal protection. If the kirpan is allowed because of a sincerely held religious belief, then a holy lance carried for the same reason must be treated the same way. Thank you.
I think we got the address on that.
Yes, we did not get your address, Mr. Kerr.
Yes, because the Fourth Amendment protects me from having to give you my address. It's undue search and seizure. I have no obligation to give you my address. And if you want to challenge me on that, I will gladly bring you to federal court.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our student council report. We're so excited to have Jillian and Maddie with us for their first official time. I know you came once before, but we're excited to see you even on your school vacation for another week and a half.
All right, so just like a few things, Miss Davenport she sent out an email earlier. It's just to highlight some things. For juniors in the high school, privileges began on the first day of school, so this is the first time that happens. School pictures, freshmen and seniors will go the day of freshman orientation on August 26th. Parking, your assigned lot will be sent out next week around some point, and you can still apply to a spot. You'll be placed on the waiting list. And food services, you can read the emails probably sent out by all the principals if you need those assistance. And Jill's going to talk about the next 2 weeks of highlights.
Hi, so the next 2 weeks, September 2nd is the first day of school for all students, and that's also, like Maddie said, when all the privileges for the students begin. August 24th, I kind of skipped around a little bit, but August 24th is when the schedules become available in Power School. August 26th is the 9th grade orientation, and also the senior student ID pictures. August 27th is the International Student or Transfer Student Orientation. The Senior Tie-Dye event is August 28th. August 29th, there is a JV boys and varsity soccer game against Algonquin at home. August 28th, oh, I said that one already, sorry. August 31st, girls JV and varsity field hockey against Alborough. September 1st is boys varsity golf against versus Westwood at the Country Club. And boys varsity football versus Keefe Tech at home, boys varsity and JV soccer versus Framingham at home, girls varsity and JV volleyball versus Nipmunk at home. And then September 2nd, first day of school, senior sunrise, boys varsity versus Ashland at the, golf versus Ashland at the Hopkinton Country Club. Girls varsity and JV soccer at Lexington, and the girls varsity and JV soccer versus King Philip at home. September 4th, we have no school. September 5th, the boys varsity soccer is at Westboro. September 10th, we have club fair during lunch block. And September 17th is back to school night for parents from 6 to 8. That's all.
Thank you. So apparently we have somebody else who is trying to give public comment that raised their hand, and I neglected to recognize them. So Mr. Ford, if you are available, you have 2 minutes. You can start now, and please give your name and address.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Joey Ford, founder and leader of Parent Data Force, an independent educational watchdog and reform initiative. I as well will use my Fourth Amendment right and waive me giving my address. I just want to talk about the Kirpan policy as well. I think it's absolutely outrageous that we're allowing anybody to bring in any type of weapon into the school. I want to pose a scenario, because restraint and seclusion is a very common practice in Massachusetts especially. So let's just say there's an autistic Sikh student who went through the Armit Poe ceremony and holds a deeply seated belief, and they are given this exemption. What happens if you have to restrain this student? Is it a totally different set of procedures that will be carried out? What happens if this student gets into a fight with another student and the weapon is drawn? How can we think about these more one-off cases and still make sure that everybody is kept safe? I don't think that this policy was thought through. I think it was just brought in an effort to bring some type of equity into the situation, but it just seems very dangerous. I'd also just like to say that I've received multiple reports about you guys have an art teacher, a woman who wants to use some different pronouns. That's fine. We shouldn't discriminate against these people whatsoever. She should be able to get a job, but to compel students to use mixed pronouns is a violation of our First Amendment, goes completely against our values in this country, and I would advise strictly against doing this. Yeah, I think that's all I really want to say for today. There are other speakers in here through the remote access. I don't know if they've all figured out how to raise their hand or not, but please make sure that everybody's given the proper opportunity to speak. Thank you.
So I don't know if you were thinking about this, but just in terms of, are we keeping track if we have a number of speakers? Our public comment period is limited to 15 minutes.
Yes. Thank you.
Is there somebody who can see on the screen where, okay, I was going to say, because we can't see whose
There's
hands are
somebody
raised.
else who's
who wants
raising
to-
their hand? Do we have a name that we can call?
Looks like Alexis Henderson.
Ms. Henderson?
It's Sandra. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi,
hi,
Sandra.
Hi. I just wanted to say I can see whose hands are raised. I don't know who raised their hand first, but Jason Alfred has his hand raised.
All right,
And
Jason,
then-
would you like to go first?
Yeah, that's fine. Good evening. My name is Jason Alfred. I'm from Attleboro, Mass. I'm going to waive the right to, give my address. So I want to address the policy JICI, possession of weapons in school, because I think this policy crosses a line that should never be crossed when it comes to the safety of our children. Your own policy states that possessing a dangerous weapon is prohibited on school property and specifically includes knives and pocket knives. Then in the very same policy, the district creates an exemption for what it calls recognized religious artifacts resembling weapons. And the accompanying agreement goes even further. It says a carpin is supposed to have a dulled blade no longer than 3 inches. But then the district allows a family to request an exemption from even that requirement. So my question is, at what point does the safety of the children inside our schools come before a religious exemption? I mean, enough's enough. You can call it a religious artifact, you can call it an accommodation, you can call it whatever terminology makes people more comfortable. It's still a blade. And your own weapons policy recognizes knives are as dangerous weapons. Schools lock their exterior doors. Visitors are screened. Parents cannot simply walk into these buildings. Even first responders may have access to enter the buildings. We do all of that because we supposedly take school security seriously. And then, we deliberately create a policy allowing a student to carry a blade inside the school building. I mean, worst case, what could possibly go wrong? And if something does go wrong, telling parents afterward there's no agreement, a form, or a policy, it is not going to undo an injury. I mean, this should not be attacking anyone's religion. It should be about one basic principle: weapons do not belong in schools.
Thank you. Your 2 minutes is up. We'll move on to see if there's anybody else that would like to speak. And we have, just so that people know, because we allow 15 minutes, we're at 7:11 right now. I'm going to let this go to 7:18 to accommodate for the time that we had the student report, but we will not go beyond 7:18. Who is next?
Alexis Henderson has her hand raised.
Okay, Miss Henderson.
Hi, I don't have anything really prepared. I just kind of, I have a few points I'd like to express.
Are you going to give your address, please?
Just Mass. I don't really feel comfortable giving my full address. So I understand that this weapon symbolizes peace, and I'm definitely not trying to argue anyone's deeply held beliefs. However, I do understand that it is still a weapon, it is still a knife, and that it can be used in certain situations, and that's acceptable in that religion. I don't know all the facts of the religion, I understand that. However, I do understand that children don't necessarily always make the best choices. And I would hate to see something that we understand can be potentially dangerous to become dangerous. And anywhere that there's a weapon existing, there's an underlying threat of danger, whether it's explicitly stated or not. Thank you.
Can I just want to highlight one thing, because I think it seems like we have some people from outside of Hopkinton, which is great, coming to speak, but it may not be familiar with our public comment period, which is that we're not allowed to engage back and forth. So I appreciate people are asking questions, but the reason we're not engaging back has to do with they're items that are not posted on the agenda to be discussed, deliberated on as a school committee. So we hear the comments and appreciate them, but we don't have them on the agenda to go back and forth with.
Is there somebody else who's raising their hand now? I can't see.
Yeah.
No? We're okay. All right, moving on, we have the superintendent's report.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's nice to see you. This is the superintendent's report for August 20th, 2026. Included in tonight's report is going to be an update on student enrollment, some highlights of some of the important dates and events that are coming up across the district to ensure a smooth start to the school year, a highlight of a upcoming emergency response training that's happening between the police, fire, and schools, and we'll wrap up with 2 Top of the Hill spotlights this month. So I wanted to start with enrollment. I felt there was an important and timely discussion after the last conversation that we had in July about the modules from Elmwood being moved up to Hopkins. I know we've talked about enrollment for quite a number of years here in Hopkinton. We've seen a really significant increase in enrollment over the last decade, but we are starting to see some trends or possibilities of it leveling off a little bit. And we are actually operating a little bit under the 2023 Dr. Wagman projections as we sit here today. So I just wanted to have a conversation about enrollment, where we are now, where we're going, and how we're going to be addressing it. So you see up here on the slide, on the left-hand side is the enrollment status from June 30th, which was the end of this school year. We had 4,233 students from pre-K to 12. We had our largest classes, was a tie between the class of 2031 and 2032. At 359 students, that's our incoming 7th and 8th grade. Our smallest class is 269 students, which is the class of 2037, which is the incoming 2nd grade. And when you take the average class size from 1st to 12th grade, it was 320 students. If you look on the right hand of the slide, you see the comparison to the 2023 Dr. Wagman projections. So he had us at 4,377 students on June 30th, which is a difference of 144 students. Fast forward to today, we ran our numbers. Our current enrollment as of August 20th is 4,214, pre-K to 12. Our largest class, the 8th grade, added 2 more students this summer, so they're up to 361. And our smallest class is the incoming kindergarten at 243 students, although we expect more kindergarten registrations between now and the beginning of the year. And I think that's why you see that difference between now and June 30th and a little bit of a dip of about 20, 25 students. We do plan to see that be made up with our kindergarten registration. On the right-hand side is Dr. Wagman's June 30th, 2027 projection, so 11 months from now, so keep that in mind. We are 279 students below that number. But again, that is 11 months away. This next slide here is our June SIMS reporting. We report how many students we have at the end of the year to the state. You can see between 2017 and 2023, we had pretty consistent growth. I think the average was about 121 students per year additional that we got. But then from 2024 to 2026, we're seeing now kind of like that little bit of a leveling off. And even we had fewer students at this year than we did last year. So what now? So as we look at the enrollment, I've been working with the central office team, specifically with our new CFO, Ms. Marr, to take a look at our enrollment. We have put out a RFQ, a request for a quote. We have submitted that for a new enrollment projection. We're also working on some internal projections being developed as well. Ms. Marr has some experience with that, which has been great. Overall, this takes about 4 to 6 months to fully get the projections back. Which puts us right in the middle of our budget planning cycle. We do it pretty early here in Hopkinton, as we know, so I think it's important for us to take a realistic approach of the numbers that we're seeing for enrollment. Maybe we'll have some additional information with our internal projections. Maybe we'll have some of the bigger projections from the company that we work with by then. We're not sure based on the timing, but we also want to take Dr. Wagman's as well. So we'll try to do our best as we go into the budget season by taking all these different numbers into consideration, but more to come certainly with the enrollment in our budget. Now shifting gears to what's happening across the district. And we want to make sure that we help our families transition back into school. Whether you're new to Hopkinton or new to a different building, we want to make sure that we have opportunities for students to feel comfortable and have a smooth transition into the start of the school year. So we'll start here with some of the marathon events next week. We have a Get to Know Marathon event next Tuesday through Thursday for our kindergartners and our new first graders to the district. It's an opportunity for them to explore the school, meet the administration, get on the bus, get off the bus, right? Wave to their parents. It's very important. So you see a picture from last year of the students boarding the bus there on the right-hand side. On September 2nd, which is the first day of school for grades 1 through 12, our kindergarten will have their meet and greet. So they'll have the opportunity with their grown-ups to meet their teachers and get to see their classroom a little bit. And then on September 8th, we have preschool orientation, which is an opportunity for our preschool students and their grown-ups to meet teachers and see the classroom. On the 9th of September is when our 4-year-olds start for preschool, and the 10th of September is when our 3-year-olds start for preschool. So. At Elmwood School, we had an event last week, Popsicles on the Playground. It was on August 11th. There were 2 different times for students and families to come see the building. Talking with Mr. Broniger, it was very well attended. It was a great event, whether it was students new to Elmwood or just students who wanted to see each other that they missed over the summer with some popsicles on the playground, but they were able to see the building and meet the administration, so it was a really nice event at Elmwood School. At Hopkins next week, we have 2 opportunities for our grade 4 students and families to visit the school, one on the 26th in the morning and then one on the 27th in the afternoon. Students can come by at either time and meet the administration, see the building, see some of the renovations that are happening, which we're really excited about. So we're looking forward to those dates next week. At the middle school, similarly, we have grades 7 and 8 new student orientation on the 26th. Also, right after that, we have our math placement tests for any new students to Hopkinton. On the 27th, we have our grade 6 orientation. And then I put this on the slide here because it's our first back-to-school night of all of our back-to-school nights, and we actually have a school committee meeting that night. So I want to make sure that the community knew that we had our 6th grade back-to-school night on the 10th, starting at 6 p.m. Going to the high school, Maddie and Jillian already talked about this a little bit, so I'll go quickly. You did a nice job. We have our 9th grade orientation on the 26th, which is also photo day. On August 27th, we have both international and transfer student orientation, and then the very popular senior tie-dye event on Friday. As you see up in the top right corner was a picture from last year's seniors as they wear it on the first day of school, which is awesome. And then from an athletic standpoint, we start sports next Monday. Our fall sports, boys, girls soccer, golf, cross country, field hockey, girls volleyball, football, and cheer all begin on Monday, different times. Check the website to see the tryout schedule. Our unified basketball will begin in mid-September. Coaches will reach out to athletes and volunteers to let them know when that will begin. And then at middle school, our tryouts start a little bit later. They'll start on September 8th. Some of the same sports, but just a little bit later for kids to get into school and get a rhythm going before sports begin for them. And then the first days across the district on Wednesday the 2nd is our first day for grades 1 through 12. The 3rd is our first day for kindergarten. And like I mentioned before, Wednesday the 9th is our first day for preschool 4-year-olds, and the 10th is our first day for preschool 3-year-olds. So another date that I wanted to make the community aware of is Saturday, August 29th from 9 to 3. The Hopkinton Police Department, Fire Department, and the schools will be conducting a joint emergency response training at the high school. The high school will be closed to the public that day, and I wanted to make sure we had this conversation because you're going to see an increased presence around the building with police, fire, and emergency personnel on campus. But again, it's just a training exercise. The building will be closed, but the fields around it will not be closed. I know that there are some athletic practices and tryouts going on. This is something we have not done in the district before, at least that I know of in my time here, and I think it's a really nice opportunity for us to work with the police and fire, get some of the new officers into our buildings. If it works well, we might try to do this at each one of the schools throughout the district when school is not in session. So we can update you the next time we see you. Updates on some traffic, Hayden Row Street and Loop Road. I'm sure you all know that there's some work underway on Hayden Row if you've been driving down the street, looking to widen the entrance for Marathon and the future Charleswood site. On the left-hand side, you can see the new traffic signal has been installed and is expected to be activated by the start of the new school year, which is exciting. It'll appear flashing mode for approximately 2 weeks before it begins to be fully functional. And the traffic patterns in and out of Marathon will remain the same as they always have. They are very well done by Ms. DeBell. She's very meticulous with it. And then on the right-hand side, Loop Road, and I do apologize, that is my thumb in the bottom corner of one of those photos. I didn't want to get in trouble for being on a road that I shouldn't be because I was trying to listen to the road closure signs. But anyway, the work on the Loop Road is expected to be done by the start of the school year. I do think it's important that we let folks know that it's still a construction area between now and the start of the school year. So residents really need to remain and be reminded and follow the instructions and see the signs and make sure that they detour. If they're not supposed to be on the road, they shouldn't be on the road. So we appreciate everybody's patience and understanding with that. And now shifting gears to the 2 top-of-the-hill spotlights. I wanted to highlight our extended school year program, or ESY. We had 168 students take part in ESY this summer. We had 86 staff members. I want to thank Kim Goodwin, who is our team chair at Hopkins School, as well as Ashley Smirlis, who's an intensive learning specialist at Elmwood, for their organization and leadership. I also want to thank Aline Desjardins for her help in organizing and working with our ESY program. You can see for the photos up there, that slide tells it all. Students were learning, they were creating, they were outside, connecting with friends and having fun. And we talk about all means all. I think this is a wonderful example of that in our district. So kudos to the staff and students for the extended school year. And then our last highlight is the high school was recently ranked the 8th best high school in Massachusetts based on U.S. News and World Report, and the 4th highest non-exam charter high school, which is we're really proud of this recognition. I'm not someone that is overly invested in rankings, but it is impressive that we continue to be up at the top of the rankings. It's a testament to our staff, our students, our administration, and I think it's a community award. It's not just about the high school. It's about our community, our families, all the schools in the district. So a wonderful accomplishment, and kudos to the wonderful students that we have who are a big part of that. So thank you, and that is the memo or report for tonight.
Great, thank you so much. Excited to see the Hopkins improvements and Loop Road all finished. It's going to be exciting.
Can I ask a quick question about the enrollment?
Of course.
Talking back to the kindergarten and the size of the class being so significantly smaller than some of the others. I know back in the day when we had half-day kindergarten, which is like eons and eons ago, the kindergarten, here it was center school then, but the kindergarten jumped in size to first grade. Are we still seeing significant numbers come into first grade that didn't do kindergarten? And I'm looking at Mrs. Dubois.
We're 11 over the projection for first grade.
Okay.
right now.
Oh,
But for the first time ever, we might need the target class size for kindergarten. That was the goal when we moved into Marathon.
great.
So I don't see it as a negative because that's what our vision was when we worked on educational programming.
And we still have an art room?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent.
How much do we pay Dr. Wagman?
I don't know how much we paid Dr. Wagman. That was before, but we just put our request for quotes. We'll be able to let you know what the price will be for the.
How often do we do that?
We did it in 2020 and again in 2023, from my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Although we're not using him again.
We're not going to use him.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Well, unless he bids on, right, it's an open bid.
I don't believe he's still doing it.
Okay.
was pretty spot on in those earlier years
Yes.
of it, where we had been using, I think it was NESDEC we had been using previously, and we were finding consistently that we had like a lot more, we had like 50 more students, or like more than a classroom's worth regularly. And then when he came in and we used his projections, they seemed to be on target for a while. It seems like things have shifted out
A little bit.
yeah.
And I do think it's tough to do projections out 10 years, right? And we've talked about that. Sometimes it's better to do kind of a 5-year clip and get a better understanding. So I think that's what we're going to be looking for moving forward. So.
Can I say one thing of praise about the coming back process? As a parent to twins this year, it actually told me which child the email was about for the classroom. And I can't say just how impactful that is. Probably for all of us and for every front office staff not having to field every phone call. Which of my children is in that class? So thank you. I'm thrilled.
I did also appreciate the high school email was specific to the class. Thank you. We'll add to that. All right, going on. School committee chair report, payroll warrants, S2. Oh, and then warrants, 25-1HS, 27-2MS, 27-3MS, 27-03S, 27-004S, 27-005S, 27-006S, 27-007S, 27-009S have all been approved, and they're located in your folder. And a huge thanks, Ms. Marr, to your team for working with me around my vacation of signing warrants. That was really great. Liaison reports. I don't think we've had much going on this summer.
ESBC. had one. Yeah, everything's-
last week.
Yeah, moving along. No hiccups.
CPAC has met with our new Director of Student Services once so far, and that's a new board except for 2 members that remained from last time, so lots of exciting things coming for CPAC.
Wonderful. On the topic of CPAC, we can invite Ms. Desjardins up to the mic to talk about paraprofessional. Hello, welcome back.
Hopefully every time I come, I won't be asking for things, but I am here again to do that. So we have had several move-ins, as Evan had talked about in our enrollment numbers over at Marathon and at the middle school. We have 2 students who are moving in who require a higher level of support in order to access their education. So we are requesting 2 additional C paras, 1 for each building, Marathon and the middle school. The funding for that is still available in the grant. We can utilize the IDEA 240 grant for that, and we do anticipate reimbursement through circuit breaker claiming again for this.
Wonderful, thank you. It's really important we support these students.
I move to approve the 2 additional Level C ABA paraprofessionals.
Second.
Great, we're doing a roll call since Sandra's online. Nancy?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sandra?
We can't hear you. Okay.
She said
So we
yes.
can't hear her.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. And I'm glad you're still here because you're going to talk about suspension or expulsion of students with disabilities handbook language.
So the document that's linked in the agenda is the complete document, and that's what will be added into each of the handbooks. What's on the slides is just the specific changes, which is what I'm going to talk about. So a lot of what you're going to see if you go to compare to what's in the handbook to the new document is a lot of just formatting changes. So I'm just going to be pointing out language changes that are more significant. So one of the things that we are trying to be more clear about, and a lot of this is about being more clear for families and supporting their understanding of the process of if a student were to be in the position where they may be suspended or expelled and they do have a disability. So there aren't many changes in terms of what the law is. It's really about being more clear. So, and the first thing is around whether or not we have knowledge that a student has a disability. So when we have knowledge that a student has a disability, if they're on an IEP or on a 504 plan, they are granted certain protections. It can happen where a student, we do not have knowledge that a student has a disability and they are in the position of being suspended or expelled, and then we learn that information. So we are adding some language in here about how they're protected and what the procedure is, which mainly means if a family were to bring forward that their child has a disability during that proceeding, then we would be evaluating that student and following the discipline procedures that are outlined in the handbook. So that is what that change is about. The second change, I actually am really glad I printed this because I was just telling the principals I'm about to get glasses and I cannot see that. So the second part, so when a student is identified as having a disability, if they are on an IEP or on a 504 plan, there are certain protections that they get. If a student were to be suspended for a cumulative amount of more than 10 days, then we have to do what's called a manifestation determination. So if a student is approaching that 10-day mark or reaches that 10-day mark, then we are responsible for reconvening a team and talking about is the infraction a result of the fact that the student has a disability and is specifically related to that student's disability. So what we're including here is what is discussed in a manifestation determination. So did the student's disability cause or have a direct or substantial relationship to the conduct, or was the conduct a direct result of the district's failure to implement a 504 or an IEP? So those are the two things that get considered in a manifestation determination. Again, that's not new information, but it has not been in the handbook before. Going on to the next part, which is around special circumstances. If you want to go to the next slide, Evan. Yep. Thank you. So there are situations that the district does not have to follow a manifestation determination, and that is in the specific special circumstances that are called out. So if a student were to carry a dangerous weapon or possess a dangerous weapon at school, knowingly possess or use illicit drugs, sell drugs, things like that, or inflict serious bodily injury upon another person at school, we are able to move to what is called an IAES, an interim alternative educational setting. So this is not new information. This is part of the handbook. The reason I included it is because what we're going to talk about on the next slide doesn't make sense without this. So these are the situations in which we can move to an IAES for 45 days. What is new into the handbook? Not new in terms of the law, but new for the handbook, is just including the definitions of what these things mean. So what is a controlled substance? What is an illegal drug? What constitutes serious bodily injury? And then also what is the definition of a dangerous weapon? So it includes the Mass General Laws, the United States codes around if you need to determine what those things are, where you find them. Okay, so that is going to be included. And then we also are including what happens if a student is removed from their current placement under these special circumstances. So students always have a right to receive their educational services as necessary to provide them with FAPE, enable them to be a part of the general education curriculum and make progress to their goals. And the students' team would determine the location for that IAES. So that will be included as well. And then the only thing that's different here on the appeal rights is that we're including that, like, who you appeal to. So it has always said in the handbooks that they can appeal, but the appeal goes to the Bureau of Special Education Appeals, so the BSEA. So that's clear for parents and families about where they would be appealing if that's what they wish to do. And then also, this is new, but ties to that, is just what is the authority of a BSEA hearing officer? So what can they order, and how do you appeal that into court if that's the direction that the school district or a family wants to move? So those are the changes.
Question. And I know this is not a change in the policy right now, but in looking back at the suspension in general, a couple of years ago, I feel like we had a discussion in that the state was trying to move away from suspensions when possible. Is that so that there have been fewer overall, not just for our disabled students, but in general?
Yes, the goal is always to educate students, to help them to learn from mistakes, put in things within the building, and I'm sure the principals could talk about things that they've put into place to help students in lieu of doing a suspension. That is generally the goal, is keep kids in school.
The other piece that, and I know, again, this is not the changed part of the policy, is I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't share my thoughts on a disabled student being suspended even for one day, if not two, or up to 10, is, I think, disproportionate to a non-disabled peer in many cases, because the reason that students are on IEPs are generally related to their ability to access the curriculum. And I feel like, even though it's not the law, in terms of considering a student's disability in a short-term suspension, I do feel like potentially the consequence is much heavier for a student who needs more in-school time than less.
Yeah, and I can let the principals talk about that too, but they're always taking that into consideration and thinking about restorative practices and different things. So
Great, thank you.
I have a question, also not something on the specific changes, but as I was reading it, because of the changes, there's a place that the handbook says the team will complete an FBA and BIP if it has not already done so, functional behavior analysis and behavior intervention plan.
Yes.
Under the IDEA, my understanding is that if there were already a BIP, the team should review and modify it as necessary. And if there were none, like no FBA with a resulting BIP, then they need to conduct an FBA and implement the BIP. So is that something that we should tweak? We should be clear.
Because it would make logical sense that if there is already a behavioral intervention plan and we have a student in this situation, that maybe something has to be done to that behavior to support them in a different way. Yes.
And then since I was reading it so carefully, just grammatically, there's places where it's probably just because of combination, right? There are places where the student is referred to as a student with a disability, an eligible student, your child, and student.
Okay.
Since we're editing for clarity and understandability,
We can do that.
maybe picking one.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. So I move to approve the 2026-2027 suspension or expulsion of students with disabilities with those minor bookkeeping changes.
Second.
Okay, Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Yay, we can hear you. That's great. I'm a yes, so thank you very much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. So you weren't just asking for money, you were also doing other things. Great. All right, elementary school principals. We have Ms. DeBow, Mr. Bronginger, and Mr. Cotter. It's good to see you guys.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, we're close to you first.
They're not if you sit on them first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Take that back. Okay, so we have, obviously the change you just approved will go into our handbook, so that's not included in our slide where it was specific for all handbooks through the special education department. So that's not included here, but that will be updated in our slides. Yeah, all right, we'll just take turns. So we had some general updates. Every year we need to update the year. Personnel, we have changes, school committee changes, central office changes, changes in administration at the building level, so we updated that. We also updated our welcome letters from our buildings for families. Some of it was language change to improve it, hopefully make it more clear, and with name changes with that.
Oh, I think I had suggested we add this too. So we do have students that utilize fidgets, which sometimes are in 504 plans or just a plan with a teacher, which is awesome. But then we also have kids just bringing in toys and squishies, and the dumplings were a hit this year. And so they did like to break and crack and leave stuff all over the bus and things like that. So we're just trying to get a handle on what is meant to help kids focus in class and what is just a toy. So we added some language to hopefully clarify that for kids. And of course, we'll work with kids who do have something that helps them. This is also me. I just received this morning our new traffic map. That was always part of the handbook with the renovations and parking lot being redone. We needed a new map. So as soon as I am done putting all of my little arrows on there and telling people where to go and not go, I will add that into the handbook. But really excited about the bigger parking lot, so as everyone should be. Yeah.
We hope everyone pays attention and follows.
Everyone does every single day.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when looking at volunteer information, one of the things that we noticed is that we had a link that actually wasn't active, so that's not helpful for any family or person that's trying to access that. But it's also not part of our practices that we were using with volunteers. So, we still have, when we have volunteers coming into the building, I think across all 3 elementaries, we love having volunteers participate in academic moments and learning opportunities. But we did delete this volunteer release form, which is actually not part of our current practice. So we still would require folks to have an active query if they're going to be in our buildings. And in some cases, fingerprints that are part of that as well. But we deleted this particular form that is outdated and no longer active.
And then as we are always looking to improve and do better across the district, we updated our language from the learning support team to the student support team. So that is a section that talks about if a student staff are looking for added resources, ideas, goals to work with students, academic, social, emotional, behavioral, it's a variety of things, but making it more student focused. So that language shifts from LST to SST.
Last year we started our Hopkins School device plan, where we required students to put smartwatches and phones off and away. So if they did bring that device to school, they could leave it in their backpack and locker, and found the need to also add smart glasses as those were starting to come in. It's another device that can access the internet and some other things that can distract learning. So we just want to be very clear what devices were under that plan.
You're seeing those in the elementary schools?
A couple times, yeah. So we just like to try to be as clear as we can. Yeah.
So we did start seeing smart watches. We're a little delayed, but last year we did. And the off and away plan was helpful, but I imagine where they've started at Hopkins, they will make their way down.
Right, and last and certainly not least for us, based on some feedback from our nurse leaders and nurses within the district, we did update some of our language on page 49 regarding some nursing practices. Previous language included that nurses, and I forget the exact verbiage, so sorry about that, but essentially like every nurse visit, nurses would communicate home, which isn't actually our practice. I think, we want to model good communication. We want families to be informed when things happen. Certainly we don't want to catch any any family by surprise if their kiddo visits the nurse during the course of the school day, but also for, kind of like quick minor things that are not necessarily things that would be typically call homes. We wanted to make sure that we clean that language up a little bit based off of some of the feedback that we received. And so we sort of added a section there that tightens that up a little bit and I think communicates what the actual practice within our buildings is.
We didn't have any new additions. Sometimes we'll have a new section. So we just had tweaks to sections, but nothing brand new.
I have a question about about the language for the fidgets to make sure that it's clear for any families whose kiddo receives support over the rights under 504. Just in the full language, is it clear who the school staff could be, like who's included in that, and how a family would go about making the request if they felt their child really needed it and they hadn't realized they needed an approval before?
Yeah, I think starting with the school counselor or teacher is the way to go. And if we need problem solving, that's when an administrator would help. But we could just certainly add that in if we wanted to. I'm just too late to do that, but that's typically where you'd start with something like that. Yeah.
And sometimes we're the ones when it's for the bus because it's, but we don't want the ones that will burst on the bus. So we'd like some guidance and help with that. Because that honestly does help children sometimes have a more positive, successful bus ride. Yeah. Okay, we'll make a note of that.
That was it for my questions.
Sounds great.
Appreciate you all coming together, and
of course,
I think it's something we've been doing for a couple of years, I guess now. But I really like having the three of you together to keep.
They're not bad to work with.
So it's not siloed, I guess, is the bonus. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 elementary handbook.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And best wishes.
Thanks.
I don't want to jinx us, but on your first day of Elmwood opening.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Do we mind, we take Ricky out of order?
Oh, sure. Mr. Andrade.
Yep.
Come on over. Mr. LaFave was all excited.
I know he was.
Ready there.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I actually have a meeting at 8:30 as well, so that's why I am jumping the line a little bit here. So not a ton of changes this year to the athletics handbook. In fact, we didn't add anything. We just made a few changes to some of the sections that we already have. So first, some of the general changes to our administrative team to include a new principal, as well as some new athletic staff that came on the last year. We have a jump page now, which if you click on a link, it takes you right to that page. We have updates to the appendix links, which is specific to our new registration platform, which is Final Forms. And so we've changed in our entire handbook any area that has that had Family ID now has Final Forms. And that's also changed kind of everywhere, hopefully by now. So there's no confusion there. And then just some more overall formatting changes to make it look, I think, a little bit cleaner than it has in the past. So the first change that we made to philosophy of athletic teams, we added in Junior Varsity 2 with the freshman philosophy. Many of our third level teams are Junior Varsity 2 teams where we have 9th and 10th graders on them. And so we wanted to specify that that follows our freshman philosophy for all athletics. Our next change is around athletic eligibility. Previously, we hadn't spelled out every sport that required SWAY concussion testing, and this year we have spelled out everything so that everyone knows kind of going in whatever sport they're doing, if they need to go through SWAY concussion testing prior to participating in that sport. Additionally, in athletic eligibility, we made a few changes to academic eligibility. And so the first big change is a change to spelling out all of the core courses. And that's because eligibility is based on passing 4 core courses. And so if you're failing 2 or more core courses for a semester, you are academically ineligible. And then the second part of that change is we review grades on a monthly basis. Previously, we were reviewing every month, so October 1st, November 1st, December 1st. And we were just finding that an October 1st review, there wasn't many grades in. And so there was a lot of kids that maybe they missed a week of school because they're sick, or there wasn't a lot of assessments. And so those October 1st grades were kind of all over the place. And so now we're going to look at it starting on November 1st for eligibility on a month-to-month basis from there. And then for semester 2, instead of looking at February 1st, we're looking at March 1st for that first review period. Again, to give time for grades to be input and for kids to have an idea of where they're at instead of right out of the gate for a new semester. And then the second part of that is I send out notification to students ahead of time and families ahead of time when they're in danger of becoming ineligible. And so that will continue, and that will be, again, before every monthly reviewing period. The next change is just in a couple of dates for deadlines for joining teams late. We typically allow students to join non-cut sports into the start of the season. And so for the winter and the spring, we kind of put a deadline as the second Friday of that season. That gives students time that if they do get cut from a sport, they kind of have time to think about if they'd like to join another sport, and also give students maybe who are new to the school or just missed that original window an opportunity to join a sport if they'd like to. And then the final change is just to our transportation form. We're not changing the form, just spelling out exactly when that form needs to be submitted in the event that alternate form, in the event that there's alternate transportation needed from an event or a game or anything like that. And so that change was made so that the athletic department / coach gets that form the day before. That needs to be, the student needs to take alternative transportation. And that's it.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 Athletics Handbook.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next meeting. All right, Mr. Lefebvre, you're finally up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Good evening.
I just wouldn't mind to give a quick update from HMS, if that's all right. HMS has been very, very busy this summer, so I want to start by giving a shout out to our maintenance and custodial staff. They're working really hard in some refurbishments that are happening within the building that we're all very excited about, but those teams have been working very hard this summer. So thank you to our custodians and maintenance staff.
New furniture.
What's that?
And new furniture.
Yep, they're assembling, moving. There's a lot happening right now. New furniture. Next week, we're excited to welcome our 8th grade Ignite leaders in. They'll be preparing for 6th grade orientation happening later next week. So as the students start to come back in, the building starts to come alive again, which is certainly nice. I just wanted to highlight those things. They're just examples of kind of welcoming and inclusive practices that are really important for making HMS who we are. I have essentially two changes tonight that are really focused around minimizing disruptions in the building and then clarifying a grading practice that supports families. This first slide is just generally stating that dates have been updated throughout, just a refresh for this school year. The first change that we've added was with our drop-off policy in the next slide. So our drop-off policy, we do try to observe this window whenever possible. That is helpful to our students and staff. And then you see at the bottom here, during the school day, believe it or not, can be very disruptive when we have fast food coming into the building. During the school day, that smell of French fries wafting down the hallways can create a little bit of a disruption and excitement in the building. So, during the school day, we just ask, if people need to bring in a homemade lunch, that's certainly welcome. Students have access to the food in the cafeteria, but we'd ask families to refrain from fast food. And similarly, in the next slide, there's been an uptick, of folks bringing in fancy beverages, as we call them in my household, candy bars in a cup. Sugary and caffeinated beverages for their students, and sometimes their students' friends. So that also creates a distraction that we try to minimize whenever possible. And then this is an addition, but it's been part of our practice for a while now. When we're supporting students that are coming back from some type of extended absence, medical or otherwise, when they come back in the middle of a trimester, it can be hard to assess them on the typical grading scale. So typically we'll work with that student and their family on setting expectations for the remainder of that grading period, and we grade them on the scale that's at the bottom here regarding exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, or not meeting expectations. Again, it's been a practice that's been very helpful for families over the years. It just hasn't been in our handbook, so we wanted to include it in the grading scale.
Great. Thank you.
Those are our changes for this school year.
Does the caffeinated drinks language prohibit if like a student were to bring some bottled energy drink that had caffeine in it, or is it for like the purchase single serve, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so at the start of the day, people are getting dropped off. Sometimes students have those. Those generally are not an issue. They go into their locker. I sometimes very graciously offer to keep it in a refrigerator for them during the school day. But we definitely confiscate like canned energy drinks. And we were very fortunate. We messaged that to the community last spring, and that really solved that issue.
Great.
Yeah, that helped. But
interesting.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 middle school handbook.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
I'm a yes, too. Thank you
Good.
so much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Friday at Starbucks, I see almost every middle school student. And I call them sheet cakes in a cup. It's like, so those drinks don't go in. Or they do go in.
It's hard to stop all those at the start of the school day.
Packed.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It would make the line shorter if they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe it'll help.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll
My
help.
dad would freak if I asked for a $6 drink in the 6th grade before school.
Well, they didn't exist when we were kids.
I get
it wasn't even an option.
But yeah, it's true. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Ms. Davenport for your first time at the school committee. Thank you. Very exciting.
Thank you. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old at home, and I spend all of my paychecks on Starbucks and fidgets. Thanks for having me. I'm a former English teacher, so I probably made more unnecessary formatting, language, subject-verb agreement changes than I could possibly tell you about. But other than that, the general changes are just including new names, new dates, changed wording for consistency and clarity, some reorganization of sections so that it made more sense in my brain, and then just including some general information. Things like the bell schedule weren't a part of our handbook, and so I think when you have real stability in leadership and then some new eyes come in, you see things that seem really clear to people on the inside and are not as clear to the outside. So I think that's kind of the theme of the changes that I'll talk to you about today. The previous iterations of our handbook included an absences and tardies policy. What we've done is created an absence policy and a tardy policy and spent a lot of time trying to parse out our expectations for helping students and families keep kids in school. We know that the best learning happens when we have the most students in our seats. And so one of the amazing things about being able to add an additional assistant principal to our staff is that we have more manpower to really communicate with clarity when students are in school and what we're going to do if they're not in school. And so there aren't a whole lot of changes to the actual lived policy, but there's a lot more delineation of when we expect students to be here and what we will do if students are not here. So in the new iteration of the policy, if you'll flip to the next slide, you'll notice that past iterations of our absence policy talked about the removal of course credit if students exceeded the absence limits. And that is not a practice that Hopkinton Public Schools is actively engaged in for a number of years, in part because it's counter guidance we've received from DESE about how to be supportive about students when they're struggling to get to school. And so since it's not an active part of our practice and it's also not really recommended by the powers that be, we removed that language and made it clearer that when students are absent, there are absolutely implications on learning and achievement, but that we work with students and families to figure out how to get students back on track. The other changes that we made to both the absence and the tardy policy is that we have suggested thresholds where students will receive consequences if they exceed them. I hesitate to say students get a certain number of absences or tardies in a semester because we want students with us all the time. But as students progress through a semester, we start to enact different kinds of interventions based on how many tardies or absences they have. And we made that number 7 for both, just for clarity, so that students know, regardless of counting how many class or daily absences they've had or how many tardies they've had, if you hit that 7 threshold, there are going to be some pretty clear consequences and interventions in place to get you back in the building. And so that's the same, that's just additional language that speaks to that change. The other place where we thought we needed to be clearer was with our cheating and plagiarism policy. We've changed the language to talk about academic integrity as opposed to cheating and plagiarism. While we haven't changed our practices and how we respond to students who are struggling with academic integrity, what we've tried to do is be really clear about what academic integrity might look like. We're still navigating the changing world of AI and its impact on teaching and learning. And while we aren't changing how we might respond when students are struggling to make sure that their work is their own, we wanted to be really clear in providing as many examples as possible of what that might look like so that we can help kids make better decisions. And so in addition to making the policy sort of a bigger umbrella of academic integrity, we've also delineated, if you'll slip to the next slide, really clear expectations for both students and staff. So talking to students at the beginning of the year about how we hope they will navigate these decisions, but also being clear with students about what they can expect from staff members who are there to help them be making those good decisions and provide necessary resources. And then we went into clearer definitions for academic integrity, for cheating, for plagiarism, and we've included language about plagiarism checkers and digital sharing into that plagiarism section, as well as the use of AI, and then a clear delineation of the consequences for violating the policy. And so again, we haven't changed our practice. We're just really trying to help students understand how we hope to help them navigate this landscape. The last change we made like this is to our language about privileges. And that is an effort to just make sure that both students and their families understand how a student earns privileges, how a student might lose privileges, and how they can earn them back if they've lost them. We also tried to make sure that we outlined what the privileges are, whether that means arriving late to school, leaving during the school day, or leaving early. And so no change in practice with one exception. Well, I guess 2 exceptions. So you heard earlier that junior privs are starting at the beginning of the year, which is an operational change, but I think not a change to the spirit of why we give students the opportunity to access privileges. What we also are doing, though, is a more systemic end-of-month review of privilege eligibility every month. It kind of goes in tandem with what Ricky was talking about in terms of looking at student achievement every month, but we're trying to just get a better cycle in place of looking at student data and being proactive about what it might be telling us about how students are succeeding and how students are struggling. And so you'll see that we'll be reviewing privilege eligibility every month, and that at the end of the year, student achievement at the end of the year will then determine privilege eligibility in the fall. And there was some language in the previous handbook that said we might do that, and we've changed the handbook language to say that we will do that. In terms of new additions, in trying to talk about our expectations for students, we added language about students who are in school but not reporting. That happens when a student arrives potentially late to school, does not check into the reception booth, and then attends some classes and not others, but appears to be absent for the day in the classes they do not attend. And so we just added specific language defining that we expect students to check in when they arrive and attend all classes once they get there. Another new addition that we've made is based on DESE guidance that we received in the spring around AI-generated deepfake images. And so DESE's been really clear that we need to make sure that not only are we prohibiting harassment and discrimination and forgery and misrepresentation, but that we explicitly speak to this kind of digitally manipulated content. So we've added language there. And I think that is that's it. Those are the changes.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions, just for clarity. So, looking back to the athletic policy, when you're talking about looking at for privileges grades, are you also moving away from the first of the month because of, like, in October 1st, that piece is,
that's exactly
every month
right.
doesn't necessarily mean the first of the month.
Right.
Then it looked like in one slide it said the late 10 tardies would be the loss of privileges, but it looked like in a different slide.
If it said 10, that must have been a copy and paste error.
Okay, because I was going to say that there was another one that it looked like on the
It's
7th one. Yeah.
Yes. You don't want 7s.
10 seemed like a lot, and now I should have marked which.
It's okay. I'll go back through the handbook and just make sure that that language is accurate.
Yeah, no, otherwise it looks good.
I have a question. If there were teacher authorized uses of generative AI, like, does that need to be?
That's explicitly allowed in the handbook language.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we don't have a prohibitive policy.
Right, I was like, oh, that's
We
new
do not.
to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I know a lot of the juniors are excited that privileges start on day one.
You could tell that the
We are
seniors
too.
weren't. Maddie's enthusiasm when he explained it was very flat.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 high school handbook.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Me? Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
I will say I appreciate you cleaning up all those subject-verb errors, because one of my issues when Evan was principal, when I would read it,
waiting for it,
I would be like, another mistake. What's this guy doing?
Who's the audience?
He was not an English teacher.
So
There's
I'm
no
looking
more
forward to reading the new one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cover to cover.
Cover to cover.
Sure.
I do it every year, every school.
Just a light read.
I appreciate
Nobody's
that.
picking on you, and I have to pick on him.
I know. It's picking on me. Awesome. I just want to take a second to thank the principals.
Yes,
and
thank you so
Colleen and Ricky for the time and effort that they put together with their teams to make these changes and all the changes of the high school one. But just in general, it's a lot of work. It's meaningful for our students, and I know our staff will be happy about some of the changes as well. So I just want to thank them for all their efforts and work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we know you're very busy at this time of year, so thank you for taking time out to do that.
They were probably going to watch from home.
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I would encourage them to
Must-see TV.
to make sure that they leave and yeah. But thank you.
Pulling
I
up on their
appreciate you
phone
guys.
on their way home.
Yep.
All right, Metro West Health Foundation grant, Mr. Bishop.
Yes, so I am requesting the approval of accepting a $20,000 grant from the Board of Trustees of the Metro West Health Foundation. With this grant, it'll be used for educational purposes, will be used in conjunction with the Hopkinton Youth and Family Services, as well as our Wellness Committee. We will be looking at different programming, maybe some guest speakers, resources for our staff and students. We might explore some SEL curriculum in the district, so there's a lot of things we can do with the grant, which we're excited about. But we're looking for the approval of the $20,000.
Always happy to accept the money.
I move to accept the grant for $20,000.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Very excited. All right. This is me. We need school committee reps for both our bargaining with paraprofessionals this year, and then we also are opening up the HTA negotiations for things involving Charles Wood School, changes with Hopkins School, and new start times and that sort of stuff. So we need a representative to do that as well. Does anybody want to?
Not for the entire collective bargaining agreement,
No, just for those specific
yeah.
changes. Yeah.
Is there a potential meeting schedule? Do we know?
So we have the first meetings tentatively scheduled, and then from that meeting, then we'll set meetings from there.
How many meetings?
It depends on how quickly we can get through this. I would anticipate a good, probably 6 to 10 meetings, 6 to 8 meetings, probably.
For paraprofessionals?
Yep. As well. So I think the paraprofessionals is beginning on October 8th. We've talked to their union leadership and we've selected that date. And tentatively, we've sent the HTA some dates we think it may be starting on September 28th. But that is not confirmed yet.
Does October 8th suggest that would mean they are hoping to meet on Thursdays alternating from school committee, or that's just the first?
That's just the first one. It'll be 3:45 after school, and then we'll be able to talk a little bit about when we want to meet, what works for folks, and then we'll set a schedule of events. So.
And I presume it's the same answer for the...
Yeah, same one for the other one.
I have interest in the HTA. If anybody else has interest, anybody interested in paraprofessional?
It's all yours.
I would be happy to sit with the paraprofessional negotiations.
Great.
Any other interest, Sandra?
I support both of them.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move to approve Kyla McSweeney for the HTA negotiations starting on September 28th.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
I move to approve Jamie for the paraprofessionals negotiations starting on October 8th.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Great. I'm a yes too. We are ready to dig in. Norms and protocols. We're reviewing them. They're not linked here.
I was just going to say I don't have the link for that.
They're in the folder somewhere. Now I need to find my folder. Just a second. Here it is. I should have had it open. I apologize. I'm distracted. Where are we seeing them? They were in here. I reviewed them earlier today. Too many handbooks. Here it is. Norms. All right.
Can you just send that out?
Yes.
Share that out, just so that we don't all have
Click on
to.
it. Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Jamie's doing that.
Thank you.
All right, so we've changed the date to be the school year of 26-27. And then we have the same opening paragraph that we're elected public officials. And then we have a section on how we conduct ourselves. With professionalism, respect, intelligence, integrity, and how we govern. We've made no changes.
This is the document from last year.
This is the document from last year.
With the new date.
With the new date.
With the new date.
Important. Because
yes,
this year we're going to act differently.
Right.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions, comments about this? Is there
I
any?
mean, there's nothing that came up where the norms didn't give us guidance, right? So
No.
yeah.
We conducted ourselves well last year.
Yeah.
I know I did.
Yes, of course.
Do you though? Do you?
In public, no.
I mean, I would love to see an Oxford comma after intelligence, but I'm okay leaving
Me too. I didn't want to point that out. I was hoping to see
Where is Ms. Davenport to help us? We can
Otherwise,
add that into the document, please, and we'll be good. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Oh, it doesn't have a motion in our agenda, so I don't know if we need.
Oh, do we need a motion?
I do.
Why don't we do
no,
it
I
anyway?
do think I agree with Chris. I think we conducted ourselves well. Or maybe, were you talking about all of us or just you?
Mostly me, but you guys did okay
Was
too.
I okay too?
Yeah, yeah.
We will make it.
We spent more time on it last year, I feel like, too. To
We did.
Yeah.
We really, I believe I wrote some new parts of it last year.
Well, you did a bang up job.
Thank you.
All right.
Except for the comma.
Except for that.
Need to go back to high school English class, but other than that.
Is the comma going to change anyone's behavior?
You're right. Let's make a motion anyway.
I move to approve the school committee norms and protocols for 26-27.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Great. We made it through that now. If I can find my agenda again. Okay. There we go. Now we are into transportation, school, start times. Great. What everybody is tuning in for tonight.
Oh, great.
We have
Excited
anybody on Zoom still?
I'm
I don't
excited
know.
to give an update on the 27-28 grade reconfiguration, specifically the start times and bus transportation. If you remember, we started having this conversation last spring. We had a meeting in May where we talked about the reconfiguration. We sent a survey out to families, got that feedback back. We presented the feedback in a June meeting, and then talked about laying out the different options and the schedule that we're going to go with. So our meeting tonight is just presenting the different options that we have in front of us, and keeping our next meeting open for any feedback that we get from the community, or if we want to present it again. And then we're looking at the end of September ultimately to make a decision.
I think we did talk about having some sort of office hours forum. One thought I had, and this may be absolutely crazy, was to have one of us available at every parent night at the school.
So
people wanted to
I don't think that's terrible. We did try one year to do office hours at back to school nights, and people were busy and
they don't want
chatting and catching up with people they hadn't seen and trying to get to their child's classroom and whatnot.
Alternate time.
I was going to say, sorry guys, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Great, Sandra, go ahead.
I love the idea of office hours. I agree back to school may be challenging. Perhaps we could find an alternate time. I am happy to figure out some times that people could be available if they're interested. Otherwise, I am also happy to be the person on that.
I'm wondering if our next school committee meeting is the 10th, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were going to vote on it the 10th.
No, we weren't going to vote on the decision. We were going to wait till the 24th. So maybe on the 10th, we can talk a little bit about who can attend some of these back-to-school nights, because we wouldn't have had any by that time. If that was going to be.
I was wondering if we did the Thursday in between the 10th and the next meeting and held that as an office hours evening. We could be at the high school and for people to drop in, and we could have a remote option maybe as well.
I was going to say, if there's not something going on at the high school,
we could be an alternate.
Anything going on at the high school?
I don't believe that would be the second day of school. I think it's September 3rd would be.
No, after the. I was thinking between the 10th and the.
Oh, between the 10th. Oh, you're talking about the 17th.
Yes, the 17th. Thanks.
That's back to school night at high school.
Oh.
See, that is happening in high school. Yeah, I thought you were talking about before that. Sorry. Yeah, 17th is. I mean, I don't know if also you want to do daytime. Maybe a drop-in coffee somewhere. I don't know if that's something you're interested in.
Oh, morning.
There's other options too. So.
I think we want to be clear what we're looking for in the office hours, because I think it's important to get this information out and to give people opportunities to share what their thoughts are in terms of what we're looking at. I think we want to make sure that people understand that there are multiple ways that they can share what they think about it. Obviously, we've got public comment, we've got emails. Email us. I think in terms of like, if we're going to offer a time, it should be a time that, like, I worry about doing morning because that makes it difficult for parents who have to be physically in an office or some kind of a job setting like that. And evening can be difficult with people that have young children, trying to get them to bed. We've done like 4 o'clock on a Sunday.
That sounds good. Yeah, we did one of the calendar policy ones at that time.
And I wouldn't, as much as I always hope we'll get a lot of feedback from people, I don't know that we're going to get a huge setting in office hours, but people can certainly feel free to send emails and reach out in other ways.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to wait too long. I think this is a big thing to people, and people want to be able to plan for, what's ahead. I think once we get this out.
Sunday the 13th. If we plan something that night, because that gives us, the first week of school is just insane, but for every parent.
So that is the weekend of Rosh Hashanah. Would be my concern.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a way that we could accelerate the schedule so we could vote on the 10th. Like if we could put something before then. Because I think it does get tricky with all the different things going on.
Yeah, and if people need, I had thought that it made sense to, since I felt like the first time we talked about it, we didn't really have solid options that we were considering that were concrete. Right. I had thought, it would make sense to treat it like we do a policy, where we have like 1, 2, 3. But it is compelling that giving people the most time possible to plan if they have a lot to figure out, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm very happy to change my mind about that and say that if we aim to be able to vote on the 10th, that would make sense. That does leave either during the first week of school or Labor Day weekend, or right, people get back from Labor Day.
Well, the 30th is before it's the Sunday the 30th.
Right.
That's more than a week away to give people notice, but I think if we give too much notice, sometimes
it just falls off. Right. I'm out of town on the 30th, so
so that's
unfortunate, but that you all have very well-functioning years, so I'm not worried about missing that.
So just so I'm clear, so the procedure for this is we'll get feedback on these office hours online or in person. We will discuss option 1, 2, and 3, and then we will make 4. Oh, and 4.
So and then basically what we'll do is we'll take that feedback and I'll make a recommendation to the school committee on the start time / bus transportation we want. If we are in a place where there might be 2 options that we really like, then we can have a discussion where the school committee can make the decision of the 2. But generally speaking, I think I'm going to put one option forward to the school committee after we take in the feedback.
I'm going to just look at cost alone, just in terms of I guess a sneak preview at what my thoughts are looking at. I really love the way this was put together. The two options that add a significant amount of money to the budget are hard for me to think about. Just
how about I jump right in and go through the plan?
Let's do that.
Yes, that'd be great. All right. So if I can pull up the screen again, the first slide here is just a very quick summary of the survey that we sent out. I'll go through this quickly. We had 813 responses from staff, students, parents, caregivers, community members. The clear priorities that rose to the top, there were 3 of them. Traffic and congestion rose to the top, trying to see if we can fix that if we can. Reliable and efficient transportation, right? Consistent drivers, predictable routes, shorter bus rides, and then age groupings on the bus matter, not having too wide of an age group on a bus. Those were the 3 things that I think came to the top. Where opinions were a little bit divided were on the start time and end times. There were some loud voices on secondary being later for the research around adolescent sleep, but also just as many voices if it's later than athletics, jobs, and family schedules after school gets very complicated. So there really wasn't a determining factor one way or the other, and that there was no real single schedule that rose to the top that everybody thought would be the best. If there was, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? So those are kind of the summary a little bit. Also, we just talked about communicate early, be transparent, which I think we're being, right? We're trying to get feedback from the community. And really the bottom line is there was no single preferred schedule. We just have to take all of these different things into consideration. Student well-being, traffic, reliable transportation, age-appropriate bus groupings, and then, of course, the extracurricular access cost and disruption, right? So let's get into some numbers. This slide here talks a little bit about the anticipated projected number of students riding the bus. We're taking the number from this year to make the assumption for 27-28. You see Marathon in Charleswood, a little over 1,300 students, Hopkins at 658, middle school 648, and this is with the reconfiguration. And the high school has 875. We are expecting between 3,500 and 3,600 students riding the bus, which is around an 80 to 80% ridership. The current bus cost, I think it's important here, last year's cost was a little over $3 million. Our current budgeted contract in the second year of our 3-year contract is $3.2 million. And if there were no changes to the grade reconfiguration, our projected cost for 27-28 would be $3.4 million. I think it's a number to keep in mind as we look at the other options. So this is just a reminder of the current school start time and bus schedules. We have 2 runs. We have the first run, which is the high school and the middle school, 7:55 to 2:25. Second run at the elementaries, 8:55 to 3:20. And we currently have 36 buses per run, also an important number to keep in mind. So after a lot of conversations with our transportation department, our Mr. Lebrod and our operations department, Connolly Bus Department, we came up with 4 potential options. 2 are 2-run options, so similar to what we have now, and 2 are 3-run options where we were adding a start time and separating the group. And we have to do this because we can't keep the current reconfiguration. If we're going to go to this grade reconfiguration, we can't keep the current transportation model, right? Because of 5th and 6th are now going to be in one school and not in separate schools. So let's go through the options. This is the first one. This is a 2-run option with Hopkins joining the earlier run. Okay, so if you look at the left-hand side, the 7:55 start time would be high school, middle school, and Hopkins, which is 5 and 6. So then you're looking at grades 12 through 5 in that run. There's 2,100 students plus. We would need 40 buses for that run. Remember I told you we had 36 before, so it's an additional 4 buses. The second run would just be Charleswood and Marathon, which would be a little over 1,300 or almost 1,400 students, 29 buses needed. And I think the big thing is the budget impact. If you look at the bottom, to accommodate those 4 extra buses on the first run, the net difference would be requiring additional $341,000 for the school operating budget, right? The opportunities and drawbacks with that option, I'll start with opportunities. It keeps most of the start times the same with the exception of grade 5 for those folks who are looking for minimal changes. There is an ability to share staff if needed between grades 5 and 12 if they're all on the same schedule. And there is also chances for students at Hopkins, grade 5 and 6, to be involved in after-school activities at the middle school, right? So adding in the grade 5 into that. Drawbacks, and probably the biggest one, is the cost. It is the most expensive option, as you'll see. Traffic probably will not improve on the first run. Might actually get worse adding another grade into the first run. The traffic on high school, middle school campus, we have high school students that park over at the middle school. So there's always a little bit of a traffic jam there where students are driving in, trying to park, and kind of walking past where the middle school students are getting dropped off. So that's always an area that we're keeping our eye on. This option wouldn't change anything, right? Because the high school and the middle school would still be on the same page, same schedule. And then 5th grade staff and students would be starting an hour earlier than they are now. So that just would be an adjustment for those folks. So that's option 1. Option 2 is, again, another 2-run, but with Hopkins School 5 and 6 joining the later run, right? So the first run is just the high school and the middle school, a little over 1,500 kids. We need 33 buses. The bigger run in the afternoon adds grades pre-K through 6, over 2,000. We need 38 buses. And you can see the budget impact is over $175,000 to the operating budget. Similar opportunities and drawbacks, right? Keeping the start time similar with the exception of now 6th grade, because that's the one that would be moving. Also the potential to share staff, but at the younger levels, right? Pre-K to 6 potentially, if that was an option. The drawbacks are cost. Again, it is adding money to the operating budget, not as much as the first option, but still $175,000. Again, the traffic probably would not improve on the second run. Now we're adding the 6th grade into the second run, so that traffic with Hopkins, Charleswood, and Marathon might be still kind of challenging. Again, it doesn't impact the middle school, high school on-campus traffic, as they're still at the same time. And then this time it would be the 6th grade students and staff that are starting an hour later, so they would have to be able to adjust to that. So those are the two-tier options. Both are adding money to the operating budget. Now we're going to go to the 3-run. This is the option 3, which is a 3-run with the high school in the middle. So you see that Hopkins in the middle school will be in the first run starting 10 minutes earlier because we need to have 40 minutes at the minimum in between each run. So a 7:45 start for Hopkins in the middle school. We would need 29 buses for that. Second run would be 8:25, just the high school. We need 26 buses for that. And then there'd be the Marathon Charleswood third run at 9:05. So that would be starting 10 minutes later than it currently is. Because of the fewer buses that we would need, right? We said we had 36 before. We would need fewer buses per run. It's actually a reduction in the budget of a little over $104,000. So something to keep in mind. The opportunities, I think it does potentially flatten out the traffic along Hayden Row, according to our traffic engineer when we were going through the Charleswood process. Having a 3 start time could kind of flatten out some of that traffic. It does reduce the traffic on middle school, high school, because the middle school would start first and the high school kids would come later and then park in their spots. It's a later start time for high school students, which there's definitely certainly some research out there that would support that, and the ability to share staff between grades 5 and 8 on the same schedule. Drawbacks, and I know this is something that the transportation department has talked to us about. There are tight windows. 40 minutes is pretty tight between school start time. So if there's snow, if there's an accident on 495, it could impact arrival times and then kind of be a trickle effect if it happens early, which we have to be mindful of. Not having the secondary schools on the same schedule limits some 7 to 12 collaboration. We currently have vertical meetings where middle school and high school staff will meet together.
How much of that happens?
Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about how often we do that? Yeah.
It's annual, I would say. I think we'd like to do more. That would be the goal. So if we were able to, I would like to do it more. But sometimes there are conflicts. So it's at least once a year.
Okay.
Yep. And then the later start time for the high school students, it could impact the sports, the coaches, the after-school commitments. We do have a bunch of high school teachers that coach middle school sports, and without them being on the same schedule, that might be a challenge for some of our coaches.
It's 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, 30-minute difference. Yep. And then the 5th grade staff and students would be starting 70 minutes earlier, which is a pretty significant change for that group. So that's option 3. This would be, you've seen this graph before of high school start times if we were to move to the 8:25 in option 3. Right now we're closer to the top. This would get us a little bit closer to the bottom in that kind of middle range though, I would think. So you can just see it there. I wanted to kind of compare to some other communities. The starred communities are our current league, which would be playing mostly in athletic events, thinking of travel time. So making sure we keep that in mind. Option 4, and the last option we have, is also a 3-1, but this one was with Hopkins in the middle. So we'll start with the high school and the middle school. We need 33 buses, about 1,500 students. There'd be a smaller run in the middle for just 5th and 6th grade. It'll be 13 buses, and then we'd have the Marathon Charleswood third run with 29 buses. This is, from a budget impact, probably the most attractive one. It's because of the fewer buses that we have, particularly in that second run, it would actually be a reduction to our bus contract of about $245,000. So if you go to the opportunities and drawbacks, opportunities, we think it's going to flatten out the traffic along Hayden Row with the 3 start times, a little bit better than we have now. It does allow us to share staff 7 to 12. It opens up a larger after-school window for secondary students, sports, work. Maybe they have to drive home their siblings in a different school. Another thing that's important with this one, we'll have more buses available for after-school sports. We've had to cancel some JV and JV 1 and 2 sports this past year because we didn't have enough buses. Because the middle run is going to have a smaller amount of buses, we'll be able to not utilize all of them for the third run. They'll be able to swing back around for sporting events, which is attractive, I think, for our athletic department. There is a potential that in this one we could start our third school at 9 a.m. because the middle run is smaller. We might be able to have some of those extra buses at the high school that are not needed for Hopkins go start picking up some of the students on the elementary run. So we might be able to start at 9. I know there was some feedback from some of our elementary folks that even though 8:55 to 9:05 is only 10 minutes, it does add on to the end of the day and something for us to think about as well, right? One second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Starting earlier.
Yeah.
If you start earlier, how are you going to deal with that for like fall sports? Because there's some sports you can't really play once like it turns dark.
You mean if you start later?
Later.
Yeah, if you start later, like your sport is always going to start later, so you still have school, but darkness is also becoming an issue in the fall. What's like the plan for that?
Yeah, it's a great question.
School early to start your game? Or?
Yeah, and I know, well, that's a good question, Maddie. It's something that we'd have to figure out and consider, right? I think the beginning of the fall season you find, and then when the clocks change, that's when things start to change a little bit. I know that there are some schools that have gone to a later start time where they actually I don't know if they intended this to happen, but they have to let the kids out a little bit early for athletics. And I'm sure you know that in some of the other schools that we have friends at. So I don't know if that's something that we are interested in, but it's definitely, if we move the high school start time back, there could be some possibilities where we have to let the athletes out early to make sure that they have games that,
If we
and if
go
they're
later.
traveling late, if they go to Norton, some of the Norton, the Westwood games, those can be late in the afternoon. And if we kick our start time back, everything else just starts 30 minutes later for us. So, yeah, Julie.
Another question about like sports and the buses. I know that some of the sport teams, I know you mentioned like JV teams don't get the buses. Do you know which one of the options would provide the most like transportation for after school for sports and like games?
Yeah, I could say this based on just the conversation I've had with the different bus companies in our central office. Option 4, because the middle run is smaller, we feel like we'd have a few additional buses for sports for that. Not a ton, maybe between 2 and 4 buses, but it could matter. So that option 4, I think, is the one that we might be able to have a little bit more wiggle room for after school sports and buses.
So obviously, at like LS, Medfield, Lexington, they would get out even later with the option 3 end time for the high school with the sports potential issues. I mean, they figure it out.
They figure it out.
So
they figure it out.
There's a way to figure. I mean, Newton gets out at 3:45. That's pretty late.
It is late.
Okay. And then, how often are there any sports that need to get out early currently in the fall due to darkness? I mean, maybe
sometimes golf. Golf is one that comes to mind. They get out sometimes a little bit early because they're traveling a little bit and it gets darker early.
Right, but those are mostly isolated and maybe 4 or 5 times in the fall.
It's not frequent.
Right. Okay. Got it.
This option also, when you look at the grade reconfiguration, this option also has the smallest time shift overall. Like some grades will move 70 minutes in some of the options, some might only move 10. This one, the greatest move is only 30 minutes with grades 5 and 6. 5 would be starting 30 minutes earlier, 6 would be starting 30 minutes later. So that is a smaller kind of movement for everybody else if you think about it in that regard.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Sandra, sorry, I raised my hand, but I wasn't sure if you all saw. I know there's a lot of focus on athletics and making sure we are supporting, our student athletes and the staff that coach those teams. But expanding beyond that, when we're looking at clubs, after school help, things like that, and if we are shifting the high school to a later start time, like how do we accommodate for the shifts there? Are those things then maybe going to move to before school? How are we thinking about that?
Jillian. Great question. Jillian had her hand up if you want to.
I was talking to Ms. Davenport about this during our principal's cabinet meetings towards the end of the year, because we did say that flex block sometimes wasn't enough time, but I do think that even with the start times moving back, that we would have like more time before school, especially with a later start. A lot of teachers like to come in early, and even just getting like 5 or like 10 minutes to ask your questions for like to the teachers, that would be helpful during the beginning of the day. And we do still have flex blocks, and especially since juniors are now getting their privileges earlier, you can go see a teacher during your study for like juniors and seniors. The underclassmen, though, it is a little bit harder because you're not really like allowed to leave your study area. But I do think that even with the times moving back, that you'd be able to find a way to meet with your teachers. But if it becomes a bigger concern, then we would talk about that more.
Can I ask, just for clarity, you mean times moving back to earlier start or times moving back the other way?
Starting
times
later. Yeah, starting later. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sandra, just to jump on in terms of the clubs after school, everything would just be starting 30 minutes later. So, you hope that the staff members who run those clubs are able to do that, but maybe their schedules change, right? Maybe they have family commitments. So that would have to be something we take into consideration, making sure that we have enough adults to be able to run those clubs and run those sports. So
is it safe to assume that the most disruption to after-school sports activities, clubs, teachers' schedules, coach, all of that is with high school students? Right, much less with middle school down through. Yep. Okay.
Because you get into jobs, you get into club sports that are out of town.
There seems to be a lot of disruption with high school. I mean, moving back 30 minutes. I get other schools figure it out. We could figure it out, but It's, okay, got it.
Yep, and it's just the balance and the discussion of the research around later sleep time for adolescents versus what all of our students and staff have going on after school, and what's the better balance to find, right?
Right, and option 4, sorry, is a 10-minute?
10 minutes earlier.
10 minutes earlier, and we're a super high-performing high school, right? With waking up when we're waking up and starting at 7:55. So my guess is 10 minutes less of sleep won't be too detrimental to.
We used to be an hour earlier.
When I started here, it was 7:25, probably for 10 years.
No problem.
And the kids were getting on the bus when it was dark at that point. They would not be getting on in the dark at that difference. I also am not aware, and I'm looking to you, if there are differences that anybody noticed in terms of how the students were faring with when we went from the 7:25 to the 7:55 time start. Were there differences in performance, differences in health? I know you probably, I'm asking you on the fly. So
no, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know if I could say with confidence, but I do think that there was, I think initially, the students probably liked the additional sleep. I don't know if you look at it from a standpoint of our statistics and how well kids did. I don't know if there was much of a change there. I think our tardy numbers were pretty similar.
Kids that are
so there could just be an argument that they go to bed later and they come to, and I've talked to a lot of principals who have done this shift in a lot of schools, because there was a lot of research and talk about this over the last 10 years. And I think there's mixed messages. I think it's working in some pockets, and other schools they have to kind of figure out how to the end of the day and athletics and after school. So it's to answer your point, I mean, I don't know, you taught there for 20 years too. I don't know if you saw anything in the classroom that was different from your opinion, but I think it was, from my standpoint, it was pretty similar.
To me, it looks like the greatest, the best opportunities, the fewest drawbacks, also saves us the most money.
Yeah.
Seems to make the most sense.
I agree.
I agree with that entirely, and I did not expect the cost difference to work out that way. But when we had talked initially about going from 2 to 3, and it didn't seem like it would be as much as $245,000.
Which is, that is significant.
Yeah, it is, and if you compare it to option 1, you've got to then add another $351.
Yeah, I mean, it's a $500,000 swing.
Well, it is, and then you think about in tight budget times, which they always are right now, what we would be able to do with $245,000.
Exactly.
Would we add teachers? I mean, potentially, that's especially if we're looking at enrollment. Would we potentially decrease the bus fee cost? Would we do? There are lots of things that we could do with that money, so I don't think that's an insignificant piece. But
and just this last slide here, I wanted to show it. I took the high school start times, and if we moved it up 10 minutes, we're still in the exact same kind of spot, right? It doesn't move us anywhere different. It just, we're still kind of in that between Norton and Millis, between 7:40 and 8 o'clock. So just for a visual, I wanted you to see that. Then this last slide, just to wrap up, once again breaks down the cost of what it would be, anticipated cost versus what we have budgeted for. So the first two options would be an increase, and the final two options, options 3 and 4, would be a decrease to the budget. So just wanted folks to be able to see that as well.
I also like to note that I believe the high school and middle school teachers feel very strongly about keeping their schedule as similar as it has been.
Yeah, and I'll say
being together.
Being together, and I think one thing that is important for us to consider is, I know I made a presentation earlier about our enrollment, and some of the younger grades are starting to see a trend of leveling. There are some pretty large classes between grade 4 and grades 8 right now.
Yeah.
And so when those grades start to come up to the high school, if they're on the same schedule as the middle school and there's no 6th grade in there, there could be some flexibility to put some classes over there. Not that I'm saying that we're going to do that, but it gives us flexibility because that building won't be at capacity.
And we had discussed that when we were talking about construction and reconfiguring grades, and we had also talked about the potential that at some point we would consider allowing, like, if the 8th and 9th grade were on the same schedule, for example, if there were 8th grade students who were ready to take some of the leveled math that is offered to 9th graders but not 8th graders, to allow some move between things, and we had talked about how those two side doors there could
Okay. Yeah,
allow
no,
access between
I
them.
wasn't aware of those conversations, but it's certainly something that.
I mean, it was a kind of way down, but when we talked about moving the sixth grade
Our
out of the
idea of some classes at the middle
Yeah.
school too, if those ninth grade teachers moved down to the middle school.
Yeah, it just gives
It seems like
flexibility.
a very obvious choice. Let's not overthink it. And let's save the most amount of money. Cause the least disruption, save the most amount of money.
So back to, do we want to do anything about a sort of listening
Providing
session?
a listening office hours type thing for the community. Now that we have these really concrete suggestions with the impact, it's easier to have that conversation versus when it was, I don't know, maybe we'll change this.
Yeah, I think it's much easier. And some people talked about, the survey was nice, but there wasn't anything to respond to. It was kind of, a friend just told me she thinks her comments on it were contradictory and not helpful.
Well, we appreciate everybody's comments. We want them to participate in it. And I'm happy to, I know that people can log on to the website and get this presentation. I'm happy to send it out to families. I was going to include it in my September newsletter that's going to go out to families.
That's a good idea.
So just to get it out there so people can see it. I don't think it's a bad thing to gather some feedback. I'd love to be able to make the decision earlier than the 24th if we can, because then there's a lot of domino effects that happen after that. Right? That will be the first one. Then we got to start talking about moving teachers and grade reconfiguration, contract. There's a lot that goes into that. So this is the first big one that I think we have to make a decision on and then kind of go from there.
So I think we should do it the 10th. Well, if it was on the agenda to vote, I would be comfortable voting on it.
We do
But I
need
think
to
we
be
should.
able to give people opportunity to feedback.
So I think we should aim to vote on this on the 10th.
Yeah, it is 3 weeks away.
I think visibility on the different options and clarity on the timeline at hand will be the most helpful for everyone. And then perhaps, I agree, we'll incite people to give feedback if they haven't had an opportunity to yet.
I love the presentation. I love the slides. It makes it
very
clear, and
helpful.
the pros and cons of each option, I think, is great to share out.
As weak as your grammar and subject verb was, and
I made up for it?
This made up for it. I mean, really good job.
All right, that makes me feel
really good.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So then that brings us to items by consensus, and I recommend that the school committee approve the items by consensus as listed in your packet.
I move to approve the items by consensus.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. You want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Chris?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And we will see everybody at September 10th.
Right. Have a great back to school.
Yeah, great
everybody.
back to school, everyone.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank
you.
Thanks.